Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to tune in. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Kimberly Laverdure, who is the founder of Systemize for Success and the Virtual Life Alchemist, which are dedicated to helping soul-driven entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers streamline and automate their operations to align with their vision for success. By blending cutting edge technology with intuitive strategies, Kimberly empowers her clients to implement efficient systems, automate marketing, and reclaim their most valuable asset, time. That so resonates with me right now, Kimberly, I have to say. Her approach combines the best of digital tools with personalized guidance, enabling business owners to scale effortlessly without sacrificing balance or purpose. And Kimberly's work transforms businesses from chaos to clarity, creating seamless workflows that support both personal and professional growth. Having overcome significant personal health and societal challenges, Kimberly is also a passionate advocate for feminine leadership, which we'll get to during the interview today. I'm really looking forward to talking about those. Kimberly, thank you very, very much for taking the time to join me today.
Thank you for having me, Gary. It's exciting to be here to talk about everything.
It's my pleasure. So when we had an opportunity to chat prior to recording, you discussed a little bit about your background in terms of your career to the point when founding or up to and including when founding Systemize for Success, that included a significant corporate chunk of work that you were dedicated to. How can you tell me a little bit about the health challenges and the impact that the health challenges had to get you to a point where you said, I have to make a change? How did that influence your journey?
Well, it actually took me out of the mainstream workplace when I was working with small businesses in corporate. I was fully disabled due to a ruptured disc in my back and 3 surgeries.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't able to work at all.
Yeah.
And going from working from the time I was 16 to hit 34 and not able to work was really depressing, if I'm going to be honest. Being vulnerable about it was a dark place for me, and a lot was going on in my life at the time. And I was able to find the online space and able to start working again, and being in pain all day long, and sitting, standing, laying down, doing whatever I can to work. This has been a really great opportunity for me. But in order to do that, I had to have things in place to take care of myself and my body. And then it moved into autoimmune diseases. So I am very, very careful with my boundaries, my time, my systems are in place to spare me the overwork and the overwhelm, which could send me into an autoimmune response and additional pain. Because for me, when I don't feel supported, whether I don't support myself or I don't feel supported from somebody else, my lower back starts acting up. So it
Oh,
was really important for me to listen to that and put things in place, which then bloomed into processes and more systems and being extremely organized and streamlined to be able to run my businesses and my clients.
yeah. And in terms of it's such a fascinating correlation that you've managed to determine with your body speaking directly to you to say, I don't know how else to tell you this, so I'm just going to give you this pain.
Yeah.
And in terms of in your corporate life, did you have symptoms or signs or signposts at the time that led up to when you were taken out of corporate land that you didn't correlate with you're not being supported, you're not looking after yourself?
Yeah, it was very subtle, as it usually is.
Yeah,
But I had continued to go to my primary doctor with lower back pain. I
right.
actually broke my tailbone when I was 16. So I'd always had a little bit of pain sitting,
Mhm.
but that lower back pain in the muscles, and I would just being kept sent to physical therapy, going and seeing a chiropractor.
Yeah,
And nobody did a very simple test. I've learned to advocate for myself. I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't just muscle, which led my chiropractor to do an x-ray. He's like, I don't know if I can actually do that. I'm like, you're a doctor. You can order anything you want.
yeah.
And it came back thinking that I had an old fracture, and it turned out to be a growth plate. but it showed a ruptured disc. And so I went to finally see an orthopedist. But again, this was in my mid 30s. I'd been dealing with this through most of my life. And I didn't listen to my body. I was a pusher. I'm a doer. My human design is a generator. So I'm a workhorse. If I'm going to get something done, I'm just going to get it done.
Yeah.
That was a very big smack upside the face to suddenly go from somewhat healthy back to complete rupture with really not much warning.
Yeah. And it's almost like if the body could talk, like literally talk the way that us humans talk, the body would say, I tried to tell you. I gave you so many signs and so many warnings and you didn't listen. So we are where we are. Don't blame me. That kind of
100%. That's where
thing.
my intuition comes in, and listening to my body and listening to what it says, listening to things that come up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So then you have this chronic pain which influences your ability to be able to physically go to a workplace and space.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you don't have any physical requirements in your job today. You need to be upright, you need to be on camera, you need to be on the phone, whatever it is you're doing on behalf of your clients. Like how did manifesting or managing that chronic pain on your journey help you then embrace automation, intuitive strategies? There has to be a more, if I could say, comfortable way to do this. How did that come about? Was it an aha moment specifically or a series of incremental steps?
I would say it was a series of small steps. It was,
Right.
I had to teach myself everything I do, going from yes, sure. I could do tech things. I did Microsoft Office. I was online when online became the big thing.
Yeah.
We're of that generation where we remember it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I was ready to fully work in the online space. I had to learn a lot. I taught myself a lot. And as I'm learning and as I'm listening to myself, it just started coming about. Wow, the more I can take repetitive tasks that would have me sitting at my desk for too long, focusing for too long, jumping from task to task for too long, I can automate a lot of these. I can put systems into place to help take care of these. I can delegate more to a team
Yeah.
and teach them how to do this. And if you don't have systems and processes in place when you're ready to delegate and hand off, becomes much more inefficient and unproductive. And doing that allows me to get up and walk around a little bit. I sometimes go outside and put my feet in the grass and just kind of reground and rebalance, come back in, sit down, tackle a little bit more when I notice I'm getting a little stiff. And that means I'm going to have a really bad night if I don't listen to my body. And I'm going to have a really bad next day if I haven't slept well. It taught me those little steps of how can I be more organized? How can I be more streamlined in what I do for myself and my clients? How can I pass that on to them? How can I automate more? And I'm a systems person. I'm very logical and analytical. I have a great creative side, but that logical analytical part just loves all the systems. It's like your little filing system that I used to love doing for my dad. He's like, it's so weird that you love this, but I love that you love to do it. So go do it.
We go get it done. I love it. And it's we'll get to chatting about time management here in a second. I love the angle that you've had. Obviously, there's a lot of pain, literal pain that you've had to go through to get that angle. But a lot of times when I'm dealing with clients or colleagues or friends or family who have challenges with time, it's literally just that. It's a challenge with time. I don't have enough of it. I'm not managing or manifesting it well enough. I don't really know where it goes. I'm not paying the requisite amount of attention. Whereas yours was more of a targeted approach to saying, I physically can't do this for the amount of time that I would be required to do it under the current circumstances. There has to be another way that will lend itself to my physical limitations for right now and to betterment and well-being going forward. Was that how intentional were you about that, or how knowledgeable were you that that's exactly what you were doing at that time?
I wasn't, because I can tell you that up until even just a couple of years ago, I was still overworking. I was still
Right.
giving too much to my clients. I was still not having my boundaries respected because I didn't respect them myself. I
Yeah.
would just push that line a little further down the road and be like, oh, well, they need this, oh, or they need that, that people pleaser.
Yeah.
But my inner journey and the inner work and the inner healing that I've done has me, I'm very self-aware.
Yeah.
And when I start noticing, wait a minute, this is out of alignment. This, my body feels off. My everything feels off. I feel crunchy when somebody says to me, oh, I didn't get to that email to get you the copy, but it's ready now at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Can you just get it and get it done? It's like, well, maybe it doesn't go out this weekend, and have that person say to me, that's not what happens. I'm the owner of the business. And it's just, wow. It just went to show that too many times I gave too much without holding very firm, loving boundaries for myself.
Yeah.
And a second client that it happened with, brand new, she was very driven. She's absolutely amazing. And she's like, I just signed a client. I need you to send over the contract and get their payment. Again, 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, well, I'm with my family right now. We're having dinner, getting bedtime routine. So I'll do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
No, I need you to do it now. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it now. I let you know that I'm done at work between
Right.
5 and 6, and I'll do it tomorrow. Well, she was going to get on to fire me, but had an epiphany in the morning that you're teaching me now. Your boundaries are teaching me that maybe I should knock off at 5 o'clock. I don't need to send it right away. She was so worried about losing a client or looking unprofessional that she would push herself. And so we were able to work through that crunchiness. And I feel that when you have conscious communication and you hold boundaries lovingly but firmly, and
Yes.
it's not coming hard at somebody, there's that moment of reflection and a moment to process it before making a mistake, because we worked really well together. And then she wanted to write a book, so she closed her business for a little bit, traveled the world. But it was an amazing time together. And that first client that did that, where I finally realized, moving into this client where I started holding my boundaries, it shows how far I came in such a short amount of time to be able to be like, no, and be okay with that. It's like, well, if she fires me, she fires me. It means we're not a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much rich data in there. One of the things I think is probably the way that you are attracts people that, whether they know it or they don't know it, they need your help. They need your service. They need your boundaries. They need your influence. And and the second part is, like, it's amazing the amount of things that you communicate and say to people at various parts or stages in a relationship. And it's kind of like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. And then when the rubber hits the road and you get to that spot where you meet a rub or a conflict of some description, and you say, we talked about this. We had conscious communication at the beginning. I was very clear about my working hours and how that worked with yours. Educate me as to why you think that that was nonsense. Why you think that that's not what it was. So it's just a fascinating understanding of the human dynamic, isn't it? Where you're kind of thinking, did you think I was lying? Did you think that in some
Yeah.
way that this was going to be different? It truly is fascinating. So on to time management. On entrepreneurs, it's such I hear that word a lot these days, and entrepreneurs have a journey that's different, that can be different. It typically is different than a person who works for an organization or a corporation, and they have a standardized approach to their work. And one of the things that seems to come part and parcel with entrepreneurship is a struggle with understanding boundaries, managing time, setting boundaries, and then, trying to work within those boundaries. And that could be all the more prevalent, and certainly in your case, when you're dealing with multiple time zones, you're dealing with a global client base that says, okay, well, it's actually tomorrow afternoon for me right now, so I kind of need it. And you're like, yeah, that's cool, but it's nighttime for me. I'm going to bed, that kind of thing. So with that said, what sort of actionable steps would you recommend to someone on the entrepreneurial path, or who's established as an entrepreneur, has an established, business that's going on right now, for reclaiming their time and, aligning their business with their original vision?
Yeah, there's a couple different things there, because what I notice regardless is when you're not punching a time clock for somebody else, and you
Yes.
have the flexibility, sometimes you tend to either not give enough time to certain things, or you give way too much. Like, well, I just got to get this done.
Yeah.
You're in your business or working on your business. And so number one for me is a project management tool.
Yeah.
It just puts all your tasks, everything in order. So you can have a project here with a bunch of subtasks, and you can lay them out when they're due, what order they need to be done in. That's super crucial to me. And as a project manager, it comes naturally to me, and it doesn't come naturally to a lot of my clients. It feels very restrictive to some creatives.
Yeah.
But it's essential by being, hey, it's okay. Let's take it a few steps at a time. Let's try this project. And, you know, we'll slowly move that over. The other part is calendar blocking.
Yeah.
When you know that something needs to get done, but you're busy, like doing a podcast, or you have an event coming up, or your clients have some private time, it's really important. I call it crank time, to put a time aside each week or a couple days each week where you can just focus on things that need to get done, whether it's creative things, your team meetings, you know, whatever it is. Those are two really important things to managing your time so that you can reclaim your time. And the last one truly is automation and delegation. When you can automate repetitive tasks and get them off your plate, you no longer have to worry about them, other than doing audits now and again to make sure they're still relevant, they're still working, nothing's broken. And then just even having a VA. Tell people the objection of, well, I can't afford it, or I don't know how to do it. It's like, even 5 hours a month, you would be amazed at how much gets taken off your plate. And once you realize that, you're going to want to give them more to do, because they should be helping make you money by taking things off your plate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just the way you look at it. You know, I can't afford to make that financial outlay right now. Well, okay, let's analyze that with the time that you're using, spending, if I could say sometimes wasting, on tasks that just don't serve you. You know, yes, they need to be done, but not by you as you go forward. So VA, for folks that maybe don't know, is virtual assistant, and, you know, someone who would be able to come in and give you help and support. I love that you started with project management, because I'm a lifetimer, I'm a lifer of project management, and it's so true, and it's such an interesting dynamic or dichotomy that we sometimes end up running into with project management when dealing with creatives. As you say, in some way there seems to be a perception that project management as a general industry or as a practice is going to in some way stifle me. It's going to in some way put me in a box that I don't want to be in, and it's just not going to serve my brilliance, that, you know, the value that I can add. And the amount of conversations I've had over the years, honestly, I can't even count them on two hands, Kimberly, about, you know, saying, I'm here to aid you. I'm here to, you know, to assist in what you're doing. Like, if you understand a little bit about, you know, why this is important, and educate me as to what your style of delivery or of manifesting, you know, potential future delivery, I'm more than happy to acquiesce on certain things, and we can strike a happy medium. But I've never really truly hit that sweet spot yet. To be honest, it's a labor of love, and something that I'm very conscious of going forward. So any creatives out there who are listening, we're not here to stifle anything.
Not
We
at
we
all.
just we just need we will help you get your genius manifested to something else going forward. And see the block of time that you were talking about there. I found that personally when I was in, you know, corporate land, I found that a lot easier, because your calendar would naturally fill up by you putting things in it, and other people putting things in it to say, okay, I'm going to get this organized. And my last job that I was in, I was basically in the same physical location for a number of years, notwithstanding the pandemic. And, you know, so there wasn't travel time. There wasn't, you know, time. It was, you know, you're walking from one meeting room to another, from someone's desk to another desk, or something like that. And what I've noticed in my entrepreneurial journey is the time blocking. I started to forget about travel time. You know, time that is not, it's not wasted time. I can make a call, I can listen to a podcast, or just kind of humdrum on the radio. But I started to get caught where I would have an event that's out with my home office, and then someone would book a meeting directly up against that. And then I would go, oh, I actually need that time. I need 30 minutes to get to where I need to get
Yes.
prepared and set up. And honestly, Kimberly, I've been caught. I've been caught a dozen times.
Buffers
Yeah.
are what help with that.
Yeah, exactly. So even just to relearn that, because I had just forgotten. the skill set of that, because of my conditioning from my previous role. So that time blocking and making sure the time is congruent with the actual event time, which is the life cycle of the event, not just the event in and of itself. And in terms of course, automation. In terms of automation, is it proprietary tools that you use, or standardized tools that have been developed by other people where you say in your type and style of business you would need access to these two or three things that help people? How does that go?
Yeah, so I have a couple different, some are proprietary, more templated,
Yeah.
that I give to my clients and people that take my program. So
Mhm.
it's theirs to use as they see fit once they've taken the program or I've used them in their business.
Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, I have like the 5 things that most entrepreneurs need to start, which
Mhm.
are just your 5 tech tools that at least get you there.
Yeah.
And then for me, automation, it's really individualized.
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all. If your business is just starting out, you're not going to want to hop into like a Kajabi or Entreport CRM because they're very expensive, very robust, and it's not something you really need right away.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily want to get like just a free MailChimp account either, because it needs something that needs to grow with you and needs to start out. So you really need to look at, does it have landing pages, checkout, commerce? Can you connect your sites? Can you email from it? You don't want to get into 5, 6, 7, 8 different platforms because you're going to pay even more money
Yeah.
and you're going to lose things. Things are going to stop integrating. So I guess the long answer to that is somewhat, and it's so individualized, it's hard to say specifically, except those 5 tools that I do talk about
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
beginning.
And it speaks so much to my journey over certainly over the last 12 months, but a little bit longer, where, you know, I wish I had a you at that particular time. I was involved in training, still involved in ongoing training, but the ongoing training was group training. So they would deliver, you need to think about this and consider that, and make sure that you have this in place, or at least part of your plan. But it was very generic to a host of different entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in the room, or people who are just kind of dabbling. So that one-on-one, how familiar are you with tech, Gary? How much do you want to be sitting in front of the computer? How much do you not? What do you really truly want to be doing? And it sounds like that's really what you've got going on in terms of a bespoke offering to say, tell me a bit more about yourself and what your needs and desires are.
Yeah, so when I work with my private clients, we have a questionnaire that we go through first, and then we have an hour session. It's complimentary. We just go through, we talk it over, we look at where they want to go. I start making recommendations. If we choose to work together, great. If not, they walk away with some great tips. In
Yeah,
my group program, I have to get to know them a little bit differently through the intake forms and
yeah,
being able to tailor some of the trainings, because each group's going to be different. And because I work with business owners and entrepreneurs, that's a huge audience
yeah,
of people that could be doing many different things. They could be coaches, they could be healers, they could be authors, they could have a brick and mortar business. It's so different. However, those 5 basic tools are pretty much the same across everybody, but
yeah,
what you use might change just a little bit.
yeah,
And my clients inform me too. Sometimes they find things that I didn't know about, and I love learning about new platforms. And
yeah,
when I do, sometimes I'm able to say, this is really great. Let's continue using it. Or let me show you something that's a little bit better and a little less expensive, because sometimes they get put into something by a previous coach because the coach liked it and
yeah,
that's all the coach knew, but it's not necessarily good for their business and their brand and
yeah.
their customers.
Yeah, 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 I love it. So on your bio, we chatted about you being an advocate for feminine leadership. How do you empower women to embrace the offerings that you have, the technology and the systems and such, who may be traditionally wary of such structures, and such. Is there a specific target that you have where you say, my niche is this, or is it more exacerbating, when you have the opportunity to work with female leaders?
Yeah, I actually find it's a little easier working with women who are in business because they're more apt to, I don't want to like stereotypicalize or say that men do this all the time, But I find that sometimes men get stuck in a certain pathway, and it's like, well, I heard that this tech was better.
Right.
And so I think I want to, and it's really hard as a woman coming into male dominated fields to be seen as the expert. And so for me, it's more empowering women leaders to step into their confidence and step into their expertise and say, yeah, it's okay. We're going to have these conversations, and we're going to butt up against it once in a while. But what I do find overall is that once you have that loving conversation between genders, it shifts things, it changes things, and it's a lot easier to do that. And again, sometimes I'd still run into the stereotypical. It's like, okay, we're just not a fit. And that goes for men and women. There's some women that are very, very in their masculine space, and I am when I work, but my communication is not. And so sometimes it's just, we're not a fit, and that's totally okay. So to advocate for women in technology, in automations, it's, you do so much already. And if you're a mom, especially, added into owning your own business and added into having a home, there's a lot that's on our shoulders, that mental workload that is still pretty prevalent. Men are stepping up in helping with that so much. I see it everywhere, but it's still pretty prevalent now. So it's like, if automations and streamlining your systems and delegating a little bit can take one more thing off your plate, so that you can focus on your work-life balance, and you can focus on your time to step away from your desk and spend time with your family, your hobbies, your passions. That's pretty much the route I go when I talk to people, especially women.
Yeah, and that's great to hear. As you mentioned, the ease of working with women just in general terms versus working with men, and the example that you gave there, it gave me pause for thought to say, yeah, I kind of do that. I do that. Not in a bullish way to say this is the only way that it can be done, but I I'm very much a brand loyalty type person. So if I get something that I like and something that works for me, and then someone comes along and says, you could do this a little bit better, it takes a bit of convincing for me to say, but I'm okay just now. And I'm happy with the price point. I'm happy with the service. I'm happy with the features and functionality that I have. So why would I need to change? And I don't know. I mask that under lazy. My dad was my hero and my best friend, but also probably the most lazy man I've ever met in my entire life. So I kind of think it's those traits, and you've got me thinking now that I might have to rethink that, not to constantly be on the lookout for bigger and better, but to be open for it and maybe lean into that, periodically to say, is what I'm doing right now serving me, and give myself the opportunity to explore.
Yeah, and you know what I find? It's just that men and women, and this goes just to relationship, men are single focused, women can multitask. And
Right.
so when men find something that works, that allows them to focus on what they're doing. Because if you are in a project, that is what you're doing. You don't want somebody talking to you. You don't want somebody asking a question. You just want to focus. Where women could be like, yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, and then go back.
Yeah.
Men are like, don't do that. Don't do that. This is all I can do right now. And so I think for them, for you, when you're mentioning that, it's only because it's comfortable. It is easy. It's something that and it
Yeah.
allows you to focus on what you're doing. It's like, no, if I do this, that's going to screw everything up. And it's not necessarily true,
Yeah.
but I can see where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little bit of there's genuine comfort in there. I know that as I just think about it out loud right now. I do like the space of being comfortable. I did the research before. I'm happy with what I have now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that truly helping me grow? Because honestly, what I'm thinking about right now is I'm thinking about food brands, I'm thinking about clothing brands, I'm
Yeah.
thinking about restaurants that I would typically frequent. And so it's not just even practices, processes, or systems that I
It's
am or
life in
I'm
general.
yeah, yeah, it really is. So as we were chatting earlier, we were talking about the intersection of alignment and leadership and processes, and you've talked about the program and the 5 steps that we have, and I don't want you to divulge too much about that if you're not comfortable doing that. But how does that, if you could expand on it just a wee bit, how does that help someone clarify aspects that can help them transform genuine chaos, or certainly more chaos than they would be comfortable with, into something that's more streamlined, predictable, and hopefully enjoyable.
Yeah, so my five tools are kind of like a starting point for people. It's a website, it's a calendar scheduler, it's your email domain,
Mhm.
it's your CRM, and then there's one other thing, and I have to get better about remembering that myself. But what you're speaking about with the alignment and the leadership and the automation is actually my Systemize for Success program, which is 7 steps.
Right.
So the alignment is your vision. That's the very first step. The very first thing we do is like, what are your goals? What is your vision for your company and your business? Where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? Like you mentioned earlier, what do I want to be doing? What do I not want to be doing?
Mhm.
That can really, you need to know where you're going and what your full vision is. And I'm a big picture person, which a
Right.
lot of people are that are entrepreneurs. They see that big picture, but the steps to get from A to Z can sometimes be very cloudy,
Yeah.
especially for creatives. It's like, I know what I want, but I don't know how to get there. So that's that next step. It's the systems and processes and the streamlining and your task organization and your project management. And then your step 3 is delegation. And then there's step 4, which is audit systems and your KPIs and all your data. And step 5 is putting that all together into continuous improvement, where what do we do once we audit and need to change things? And then there's 2 more steps after that. The last one just being putting it all together in continuous implementation and improvement and just moving along. And so those steps really take you from being aligned, being a leader, because at some point you are going to need to delegate. You are going to have even a small team underneath you at some point if you want to scale.
Yeah.
But if you're not automated and you're not streamlined and you're not looking at processes and systems and you're not auditing, and that includes client feedback, team feedback, your own feedback,
Yeah.
your data and analytics, it's like all of that comes into play to have a really balanced business. And that allows you to grab your time back. That allows you to grow. That allows you to open another business if you want, or travel more, or finally, start taking vacations and letting your business be on autopilot for a little bit, letting it run without you for a week or so.
Yeah.
That answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah. And one of the things that you said there really resonated with me. And I wonder how much people have to experience, a more manual, disconnected, disjointed approach to life to then appreciate, if I'm a brand new business and I'm kind of techie and I'm just getting started, and you say, listen, this is a 7-step program. If you follow this in this way, you'll get yourself set up for success. If I'm if I have no battle scars, if I have no experience where I'm thinking, why did like what was even the point of that? Why did I think that was a good idea? And this takes up too much time and whatever that looks like. I wonder if it would be more difficult to convince me, rather than if I do have those scars, I then say I need help to stop spending so much time on copy, to stop spending so much time on email, to stop spending so much time on, client reach out, whatever it is for a specific business. Do you find that in terms of, brand new entrepreneurs out of the box versus folks that have got a wee bit of road behind them?
I think it's a balance. I think the people that I find that are like, oh my gosh, this would make my life so much easier. I see where it can help because I've been down that road, certainly.
Yeah.
But I also think I have a place in my heart for the ones that haven't, because who, just like when we have children, we don't want them to experience a lot of things that we did. I would love for entrepreneurs not to have some of the battle scars that I do. It would
Yeah.
be amazing to reach people before they've made all the mistakes, before they've overwhelmed themselves and burn out and wonder, why am I even doing this anymore? Like, I know why I started it, but why? I love getting to the startups before that happens, because there's going to be other things in their path. Nothing is ever smooth sailing. There will always be something. But if
Yeah.
I can mitigate that and I can give them skill sets and tools before they get to that point, they will have an easier time of pivoting and learning how to overcome some of the challenges that are going to be there, because it's going to happen.
Yeah. And do you feel there's a resistance from the newer folks, or do you think that the clientele that you have are a bit more open to considering that without any scars?
I think it's a little bit of both again. It's like sometimes the ones that haven't experienced it is like, why do I need this now?
Yeah.
Then other ones are like, I absolutely need this because I want to know that I'm starting my business out on the right foot. And then you have the ones that are battle scarred, like, I'm not going to make another mistake and hire one more person to tell me what I'm doing when nothing's worked in the past. Are you going to be able to show me this? Because I've been burned so many times by so many different coaches and VAs and, anybody that comes to support. And then you have the ones that are like, yeah, it's just time. I can see where you're helping. So it's so individualized. It's really hard to put everybody into one bucket and say, this is again, the objections are very individualized and very depending on what they've gone through or haven't gone through. And
Yeah.
if they can, I think my job is to show them what it could be like, not just a pain point and a solution. And I'm learning that, I've done this privately for so long. I haven't really had to overcome objections. It's either we want to work together or we don't.
Yeah.
This is a whole different ball game when you're going out further away from word of mouth and referrals. So I think I'm still kind of learning some of those things.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to admit that I'm still in the learning phase of this part of my business.
Then you're having conscientious conversations like we talked about earlier, to say, I haven't actually come across that question or that circumstance or that situation before. It's actually a great segue into my last question. And I think I know based on the answers, but I want to give you an opportunity with a clean question.
Okay.
How do you support people, whether it be private clients and or, businesses as you continue with your growth and overcoming the challenges? Like what's Kimberly's process for getting people to understand where they are, understand the challenges that they have, and to help them know and need a culture of sustainable growth, and sustainable being the key operative word there?
Yeah, it's really having that one-to-one time with them. And so with my group program, I'm really going to have to work on that a little bit with my intake to make sure that I'm getting the same feedback that I need.
Yeah.
Because once I'm on a call with somebody, it's very intuitive. I see their answers. We start talking about it. I start listening. I start pulling out, kind of like what we're doing here. It's just that give and take conversation. And then that intuition of, well, wait a minute, I just heard something there. What is happening in this side?
Yeah.
Or what happened in this moment that got you to here? That's really my system of speaking to people and pulling out what I need to say, this is what we could do. Sometimes it's very easy and then sometimes it's very nuanced, and I really have to rely on my intuition because some people, they really got it together.
Yeah.
And most people do. I don't want to like shift that not everybody does, but there's always something. There's an inefficiency or bottleneck somewhere that's just stopping them from reaching what they want, and they don't always know it until we get in and look under the hood. So for me, it's like I can do it this way, but the first month of working with somebody, I'm just getting in there and looking and going, oh, here's where something is. Oh, this isn't working. Oh, did you even realize these links were broken on your website? Or, just little things like that, because the audits aren't in place. And I think that's like the biggest thing, that systemization of processes and audits and doing that consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm even still learning, even 17 years later, there's little things. It's like, I did not even think of that. Let me add that to my little list here to put an SOP in place.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, because one of the main things, one of the main themes that I've had from most of what we've chatted today, Kimberly, has been you're still learning. It's a work in progress. You don't have all the answers for everything. Other people can find out information which you could then take on board. And I've experienced that multiple times in the classroom, virtual or physical classroom over the years, where certainly in my earlier stages of my academic teachings, I would feel a tad insecure, awkward, something like that, like I wasn't serving the classroom well enough if a question got asked that I didn't know the answer to. It was quite rare that it would come up because I just literally know more about the topic than most of them do. But the more that I started to embrace, I'm here to learn as much as you are. I've got information that I'm going to give you, but it's going to be a conversation. It's not going to be a lecture. It opened the door to me. And what I found was it was such a growth and a gift opportunity for the student or the client, as it would be in your case, to give a little back, where they're like, oh, because I used to think in some way that it would be looked upon negatively. where they would be like, you should know this. Why don't you know this? Because they never asked a basic question that I didn't know. It was something where they're like, what do you think about that? And I'm thinking, oh, that's a tremendous question. I haven't actually come across that before. Has anyone else? Then you get into a dialogue and then they feel like they've added value. They've contributed to the pool of
Yeah.
meaning, and you've got that opportunity to simultaneously grow. So it does sound like it's a work in progress as you go forward, and I wish you all the luck and success in that. Before I let you go today, Kimberly, where can people find you and find out more about you?
Yeah, virtuallifealchemist.com. And you can get me on social media there. You can look at my blogs. You can find my resources. You can pretty much find anything that you need right from that website.
Perfect. And I'll get that link put in the show notes for this particular podcast again. Kimberly, this has been an absolute delight and very, very practical and tactical information to take forward. I have a feeling we'll be talking again fairly soon here, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today.
Well, I would love that. I had a lot of fun, and thank you so much for your insightful questions.
Hello again. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode, and I do hope that you found it valuable and gained some insights. I do have an ask for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would absolutely love it if you would connect with me on my socials, and that's at LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search for my name and do whatever it is you need to do there to follow me and stay updated with all the latest content, tips, and discussions. And for any more resources that you're looking for, feel free to visit my website, garygillen.com. And while you're there, you can book a free, no obligation 30-minute coaching call directly with me through the site. Whether you're looking to enhance your performance or tackle a new challenge, I'm absolutely here to help you succeed, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. Thanks very much again, and until next time, keep pushing towards your goals and getting better each and every day, my friend.